guys going to hold the mic? Okay. I was wondering if I can use this mic stand or not, or if you guys wanted to put your mic on there.
You go ahead and put yours on.
Okay.
Good afternoon. This is truly a great day for the Lafayette Parish School System. To my knowledge, I don't know that this district has ever had a press conference to announce test results, but the academic gains by the Lafayette Parish School System are nothing short of extraordinary. That's one way to put it. We're going to run through a couple of slides that really paint the story about this past year's academic gains for the district. Back about 18 months ago, I met with 40 principals in this boardroom. We talked about moving the Lafayette Parish School System from its very, very commendable B rating as a school system to that really higher ground, a district that would be labeled with an A rating. I interviewed with the board and talked to them about my vision for Lafayette Parish to become an A-rated school system. When I met with principals, we talked about moving and making that journey together as a school system to grow about 10 accountability points, to move from the B to the A. And we really set out on that journey, setting very, very clear expectations about working closely to identify the needs of children, providing them with either enrichment or remediation, providing them with more rigor than we probably were accustomed to, the idea that principals were going to be in the classrooms. When I say principals, that's not just principals, assistant principals, instructional strategists, data analysts, lead teachers in classrooms making sure that instruction was effective. So the question today, and the question that's been asked of me over the past 18 months, was our plan successful? So in a nutshell, Lafayette Parish was ranked 27th in the state of Louisiana in 2015. We were a very comfortable B-rated school system. Test scores were released this morning by John White. Lafayette Parish is now ranked tied for 19th best in the state of Louisiana. That puts us in the top 26% of school districts in Louisiana. Looking at our 4 years of accountability data, I want to remind you that when I interviewed and was selected superintendent, when I talked to principals in May, this district was a 90 district performance score in 2014. Little did I know that Lafayette Parish would slip about 0.8 of a point in 2015 to bring us to where we were when we really launched our academic plan. So the idea of talking to principals, many of you remember that conversation. We were going to grow about 2.5 accountability points per year over the next 4 years to get us to that 100 bar. That idea is embedded in our Vision 2020 plan. It's embedded in every conversation we have as a district, the idea of trying to be more effective. So take a look at the trajectory now Lafayette Parish is on, because our district performance score today, 2016, is a very, very commendable 96.3. So where does that put Lafayette? So on this graph, it shows Lafayette ranked 19th in the state of Louisiana. Notice that there are only 2 B-rated school districts ahead of Lafayette Parish before we get to the very bottom edge of an A rating as a school system. So I want to give you great hope that Lafayette Parish is poised in this academic year. If we do the job that we think we're expected to do, Lafayette Parish is capable of becoming the next A-rated school system in Louisiana. because the gap between 96.3 and 100 is achievable in one academic year, as evidenced by many of these districts that are now A-rated. They jumped into that A rating from the B category, so we can do much the same. Now, that 7.1 points of growth in one academic year ranked us 16th best in the state of Louisiana in terms of the size of the 1 year of growth. And in terms of where we are, notice we're 16th in the state of Louisiana. We grew 7.1 points. We moved from 89.2 to 96.3. I want you to notice that districts are capable of dramatically growing in one academic year, as evidenced by these districts that are listed in this table are districts that are committed to high achievement, committed to using research-based practices, committed to addressing the needs of children. If we remain with those same goals in mind, we're capable of duplicating the effort we're seeing today. So the idea of an accountability score is represented today by a letter grade and a single number. However, in practical terms, the accountability score is a composite of several buckets of data that get added together to generate a district performance score. In the case of accountability, we have a LEAP index for grades 3 through 8. We have an end-of-course index for high schools. We have an ACT index bucket for high schools. We have a dropout credit recovery index for middle schools. We have a strength of diploma, again for high schools, and a graduation rate index, and a graduation rate cohort for high schools, and progress points available to all schools. So of all of the buckets that represent a district performance score, Lafayette Parish was mentioned in a phone call with the Department of Education recently that we showed gains in every single indicator representing school accountability. And we were commended for doing not just a good job in one or two areas, showing growth in every facet of school accountability as a district. So once again, our achievement index in grades 3 through 8 grew 3.7 points. Our end-of-course index grew 3.8 points. Our ACT index grew a very commendable 16.9 points. Dropout credit accumulation index grew 3.5 points. Strength of diploma 11.3 points. Graduation index 14.2 points. And graduation cohort increased 7.1%. So, in the big summary for the district, we had 34 of 40 schools show improvement in their school performance score, an incredible 85% of schools. We had 19 of 40 schools that grew by more than 5 points. And our high schools need to be commended separately because the average increase in high school achievement grew a whopping 9.3 points. So what we're going to do now is recognize some of our schools for achievement. So I'm going to get my team up here.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Annette Samick, Chief Academic Officer. Principals, when we do call for you to come up front, we will ask that you stay for an individual photo, and then stay off to the side, and then we'll do a group photo for that group that's being recognized. We're going to start with our 3 schools of recognized growth. This is schools that met the district's SPS goal of 2.5 points or more, but less than 5 points. Carencro Middle School, Jeff Johnette, 4.6 points worth of growth for a 76.8 SPS. Evangeline Elementary School, Felice Williams, 3.4 points of growth for an 80.7 SPS. And our 3rd school, Scott Middle School, Candy Kelly, 3.1 points of growth for 74.6 SPS. And a group photo, please. Thank you. We will now recognize 4 schools for Schools of Achievement. This is for A schools. These schools who earned an A label and were not identified in any other category. Our first school is Woodvale Elementary School, Monique Vitos, with an SPS 110.5. Elio Judice Elementary School, Mia Lemaire, with an SPS 109.9. Edgar Martin Middle School, Jeannie Hebert, with an SPS of 105.1. And our 4th school is Paulboro Middle School, Stephen Judice, 102.6. And at this time, we would like to review the banners that each school is receiving with their school names on the banner. Ozzy. Just step up one so the audience can see, please. Thank you and congratulations. The next 3 schools have the highest SPS by grade level configuration. For elementary school, Green Tea Linden Elementary, 111.4 SPS, Cherie Fontenot, principal. Middle School, LJ Alama, with an SPS of 112.4, Jennifer Gardner, principal. And for high school, Early College Academy, with the highest SPS for the district, 123.2, principal Ann Castile. Our next category, we have 10 schools being recognized and principals for outstanding growth schools. These schools grew 5 or more SPS points, or they moved up 1 letter grade. Milton Elementary Middle School, Kimberly ATA, 9.4 points worth of growth and moved from B to an A. J. Wallace James Elementary School, Dana Schmiersall, 9.4 points of growth and a C to a B. Karen Crowe High School, Mary Qualley, 8.7 points. Plantation Elementary School, Ann Herman, 8.4 points and a B to an A. Doosan Elementary School, Catherine Rayburn, 7.4 points and a D to a C. Lafayette Middle School, Allison L. Kuby, her assistant principal is here today. It will be Michelle LeBlanc, 7.4 points of growth. Judy's Middle, Sanji Fontenot, 6.3 points of growth. David Thibodeau STEM Magnet Academy, Jeff Debates, is a combination school. He had a total growth of 6 points and a B to an A. Ridge Elementary School, Dr. Mark Rabelais, 5.3 points of growth. And our final school, Ernest Gallette, Monique Chagua, moving from a B to an A with 2.7 points of growth. And one additional school, since you just walked in, Ann Castile, we're going to recognize you in just a moment. So I forgot it's the previous group. And Ms. Castile, Ann Castile Early College Academy had the highest and for high school SPS score of 123.2. Okay, would Cherie and Jennifer come up, please? The next category, we have 7 schools that will be recognized for exemplary growth. Exemplary growth schools showed growth of 10 or more points or an A label with 5 or more points of growth. Acadiana High School, David Lejeune, 15.2 points and C to a B. Northside High School, Julia Williams, 13.2 points of growth. Como High School, Mary Yvonne Zeno, 11.3 points and C to a B. Alice Boucher Elementary School, Renee White, 10.7 points growth. Austin Elementary School, Kelly Claus, 10.4 points of growth. Lafayette High School in A status, Dr. Donald Thornton, 9 points of growth. And our final school in the category, Broadmoor Elementary School in A status, Cindy Duyon, 8.3 points. Our last category of recognition is also the only official Louisiana Department of Education Designated Growth Award. This is for our 3 top gain schools. They earned 10 or more points and met all components of the subgroup targets, or are an A school with 5 or more points and met all components of the subgroup targets. First school is Live Oak Elementary School, Stacy Danos, 10.7 points and a C status. J.W. Falk Elementary School, Jamelia Hicks, 10.7 points and a D status. And our third school, top gain school, Green Tea Linden Elementary School, Cherie Fontenot, 9.3 and an A status. Congratulations, everyone.
So let's give them all a round of applause one more time. So one of the things, aside from raising student achievement, has always been, at least in conversations I've had in the community, whether or not we are not just raising test scores in general, but are we closing the achievement gap? Are we helping children of all socioeconomic status to really be all that they can be? And so we are tracking student growth, and we are able and proud to announce that we are in fact closing the achievement gap, specifically in Lafayette Parish. In the case of grades 3 through 5, the achievement gap in ELA narrowed by 16.6% in 2016. In math, it narrowed by 15.8 percent, and in science, it narrowed by 12.7 points. Important thing there is that's just one data point. That's 1 year of effort. We want to see a continued narrowing of the achievement gap. We don't want to hold any children back. We want all children to be successful. We are at least beginning the journey of helping Lafayette children really achieve all that they can. In middle grades, middle schools, the achievement gap in ELA narrowed by 11.7%, in math by 7.5%, and in science by 4.6%. So that's, I want to commend the district for addressing the needs of our at-risk students, specifically in Lafayette Parish, as well as continuing to raise student achievement in general. So, once again, let's enjoy this today. Let's remember that hard work produces good results. Let's try to duplicate this again and again and again in the Lafayette Parish school system. Let's, as an educational entity, let's commit to working harder than we have ever worked so that we can achieve higher and higher achievement for our students. It's not about us. It's about our children that we educate in the Lafayette Parish school system. The journey's begun. We have a year's worth of data. We can hang our hats and say we really worked hard. We have moved the needle, we've moved the boulder, we're headed in the right direction, but the journey's not over. So yes, we're 19th best in the state of Louisiana. We grew 7.1 points. We had the 16th best gain in 1 year student achievement. We moved schools incrementally from letter grade to letter grade, and of course we're addressing the needs, particularly with top gain schools. The journey is really just beginning for the Lafayette Parish school system. On behalf of the board, and I have 5 board members here today, I want to say publicly that the full Board of Education in Lafayette has been nothing short of impressing me with their desire for the Lafayette Parish school system to be successful. So I want to thank the board members for the work that you're doing. You've made some tough decisions, both academically and structurally in the Lafayette Parish school system, to really take advantage of our assets and our resources. So, principals, please go back, and I sense some of you have already celebrated today because the scores came out early this morning. Let's celebrate a little bit longer. Those flags, you probably have some old ones that are in your school. The state stopped issuing accountability flags a decade ago. We want to make this a routine event in the Lafayette Parish school system. We want you to put those up in prominent places, remind your parents of your achievement, tell them that the journey's just begun. We need their help. We need you to believe that we as a district are capable of being one of the top-rated school systems in Louisiana, and I think we are. Thank you. And I'll open this up to the media if you have any questions you'd like to ask. If you would like to ask questions to individual principals, I'm sure they would be happy to try to respond to your questions. Thank you.
But to your knowledge, measures measures that were used to calculate as last academic year, the same measures that were used to calculate?
Yes, in fact, we went back to the last 4 years worth of data. Essentially, in that 4-year period, we are using the same metrics. And so there's been some discussion when Common Core was introduced, the makeup of the test, specifically the types of questions. However, in a practical sense, we don't get to decide the formula or the makeup of the test. For all practical purposes, these last 4 years have been comparable.
Thank you.
I guess, you know, when you came in, you said your main goal was to be an A-rated school district. So you've made big steps on to accomplishing that. Did that exceed your expectations just in this one short year?
Actually, I'm not surprised by the magnitude of the growth. I'm not surprised at all. We did give ourselves 4 years to get to grow those last 10 points because in a practical sense, when you look at the history of Lafayette, for whatever reason, we had been pretty much slipping academically as a district in spite of, I know, tremendous efforts. That's what happens when you get focused. You focus on helping children to be successful, and I think principals and instructional strategists know what I'm talking about. You focus on the child. Is 7.1 points an anomaly? No, not when you look at other districts that are growing similar amounts in one academic year. It's what happens when you get focused. And so I'm not surprised. I am excited about the results because it tells me that that journey is not going to be a 4-year journey. We'll get there much sooner than we set out in Vision 2020, but I think it's validation that the plan is working. That's a great question. Obviously, we have not been living in a vacuum here. We have had knowledge of student results since early summer. We have developed our second-year instructional plan as a district. We have continued to use the tools and the resources that we know have been effective. We are circling the wagons instructionally. We are drilling down using data, and we have an instructional plan in place to really help all of our schools to continue to be successful. And I want to make sure we acknowledge that every school in this district contributed to the accountability results for Lafayette Parish. So while some schools maybe didn't post positive numbers, we will drill down and find out what we can do to help those places. While some schools may have only grown incrementally, then we will redouble our efforts in those areas to make sure the instructional plan has the rigor that it needs. Places that have grown by 5 or more points or double-digit numbers, we're going to continue to address the needs of those children. So every school district has already circled their wagons and begun working with their schools, their instructional teams, their professional staff to help them to be more successful. So it's going to be interesting because the rezoning is going to really shuffle student results. So the results for each child will follow that child and be part of that new cohort. So it's reasonable to expect there's going to be a shuffling of accountability results based on the demographics of that new school population. We're going to look at that very closely. One of the things that I think the board said very clearly just recently is that we believe in the success of all of our schools. That as board members, you said you would never choose to send children to failing schools. That you provide the resources at every one of our campuses for children to be successful. I think that's what we do. We understand through the demographics and the accountability results from that rezoning event, we understand where the challenge is, if any, and we double down on helping those schools to be successful. Okay, I want to thank you all for coming out here. I hope we do this again next year. We really feel good. So we want to give out flags next year, and we want you to display those things prominently, and we want you to celebrate with your team and make sure that they know that we appreciate the effort that's going on every day in the Lafayette Parish School System. Have a
This was a press conference, but it's academic pep rally, so we can. But I want to keep that momentum, and if you want to go back to my school, let's keep this up. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.